Okay, it's been a minute, but I'm here to kind of talk about something that's been interesting me for quite a while now. PC tech in general and computers in general have been kind of in a weird state since all the AI rollouts and components being pretty much battled and fought for by all the AI companies. But something that's been kind of interesting to me, and just the fact that the PC space is changing, but not in a bad way, is what Valve is doing with the Steam machine. And they tried to attempt this beforehand, and it didn't really go too well by having Steam machines come into the market with different manufacturers like Alienware and others to try to pretty much take Linux boxes and put them in brick and mortar stores like Walmart and Best Buy and try to sell it to a consumer that isn't very familiar with Linux at the time and try to sell it as a gaming platform, even though it was technically just a Linux computer with a gaming interface at the time. And now doing it in today's day and age where people have already gotten kind of used to Linux a little bit more due to Microsoft being Microsoft and kind of forcing people to look for alternatives due to their intense focus on AI and trying to put Copilot in everything, and as well as people just trying to find free and open source software to kind of remove the tracking and data aggregation that goes on with the major companies like Microsoft and now seemingly Apple and others. So, even though this is technically a gaming machine, it's still a Linux computer, and it really does interest me. The fact that uh, in the future, probably by the end of this year, based on the release schedule being delayed from Valve, and rightfully so due to the memory crisis, it makes sense why they did delay releasing the Steam machine. But hopefully, sometime in summer of this year, or the tail end of this year in 2026, we get the Steam machine. I think it'll actually be a turning point of gaming and a turning point of Linux, in my opinion, because Linux will be able to enter the households of more people, people who would normally not just make a bootable USB and put it on their system in fears of not knowing how to do something or bricking the device, even though Linux is pretty ubiquitous when it comes to working with pre-existing Windows hardware. But nonetheless, people are usually nervous when it comes to changing an operating system, especially an operating system that the documentation on it is sparse, unless you go to forums and other users of Linux, which isn't very, it's just not, it's not commonplace. Most people know Mac and Mac OS, and most people know Windows. So I really think it's going to be a turning point in computer hardware. And it's just really interesting to me because it'll finally have a semi pre-built machine focused on gaming as well as getting Linux in most people's households, and they'll be able to see the benefits of a machine like this. Um, a few things I wanted to touch on, other than just the fact that I'm happy that the Steam machine exists and it's going to be coming out sometime this year, is pricing. Pricing is kind of a an issue right now because Valve doesn't even know what to price the machine at. Honestly, if you would ask me where they should fall in the pricing, I would say anything over $800 is overkill for what you're getting. And the reason I say it's overkill for what you're getting is, one, it's working off of Zen 4 architecture with the CPU and RDNA 3 with the GPU. So it's not going to have the latest FSR. It's not going to have the highest clock speeds for the processor. The silicone that's going to be in the Steam machine is going to be outdated. not by too much to where you can't play games, but as you see with this article here, it's going to be targeting native 1080p resolution and 30 FPS gameplay, which sounds more uh, detrimental than it is, because whenever you're going for native resolution, 1080p 30, most people do 1080p 60, and some people have upgraded to 1440p 60, but most people don't really run anything in the higher resolutions on average, unless you're dealing with what Valve is trying to do, which I think is kind of going to hurt them in the long run, which is the focusing on the TV market and focusing on 4K 60. Now they're trying to do it with upresing and using the FSR upscaling. Will it work? Of course, because that's what the modern consoles use, but I just don't think I don't think that having the Steam Machine Verified being the target of 1080p 30 FPS is going to be the best bet, because I know they're targeting this for AAA. And I understand why they're doing that, is because they're trying to make sure that people can feel confident about buying games using the platform that they're providing with the Steam Machine. But in reality, most people aren't buying a Steam Machine to play AAA games, and those that do are going to be very disappointed and underwhelmed when using the system. But the whole point of the system is to get Linux in the household in a ubiquitous launcher that is primarily suited for gaming, but usually like light to mid-range gaming. So think of your single A's or your double A games, as well as indies. That's really what the Steam Machine is for, and their advertising and everything that they've come out with their press releases has kind of signaled that it's not going to be a powerhouse. And this is just, again, kind of reiterating the fact that the Steam Machine is not meant to be a huge competitor to like a high-end computer. They're really targeting like an entry-level computer around the same price. Like I said, probably the $700 to $800 range should be the sweet spot for the Steam Machine to kind of take on take on your entry level Dells and your entry level HPs, like your HP Omens or HP Victrix, Victus. I'm sorry, Victus uh, pre-builts. So really, I like what they're doing. I think it's very interesting. And also, I was looking at another article where they were kind of improving the Steam Deck on top of getting prepared for TVs. So they're kind of helping with the scaling when it comes to Steam OS and being able to fit on 4K TVs without too much issues and too much problems with like aliasing and what have you. It's like it feels as though they're trying to come out with it sooner rather than later, because they did make multiple blog posts about how they would be delaying it and hopefully they could get it out in 2026. But now it seems as though it is really coming sooner rather than later. So probably by summer we'll get it. And that is about as good as you can get when it comes to this type of system. It's something that's needed and something that's been on my mind for the past couple of months, just waiting for the machine to come out, because I really want to get my hands on it and really test it and see how easy it is to customize it or add different OSs on it if need be. If you want to add like a different version or a different distro, is it possible? Can you dual boot distros on it? Just kind of utilizing it as a gaming system first and foremost, but also as a all-in-one Linux machine that you can pretty much go into, hopefully if they do this, a brick and mortar store like a Walmart, a Best Buy, a Macro Center, um, and just purchase, or a big box store, Costco. That would be the bread and butter. That would be the perfect thing if they do something like that in the United States, at least. But Yeah, it's just been something that's been on my mind. I'm going to have another video going into the Xbox Helix situation, as well as the PlayStation 6 situation, as well as the PlayStation 5 price hikes. I'm noticing that everything seems to be getting more expensive, but cool tech is coming out. And right now, the coolest tech on the market, other than if you're in the sector of AI workloads, which I really am not. I'm more focused in the common, you know, system for a consumer, common system for a gamer, because those are that's kind of like my ballpark is as as a common user. I'm not really a super user or a heavy user. I'm more so office suite as well as gaming. But yeah, it's really getting interesting, and I'm looking forward to the technology that comes out in the next couple of years. And what's happening right now in 2026 is interesting, even though there's a lot going on right now when it comes to tech. The cool things that are happening is pre-builts are coming out, and they're kind of focusing on being both gaming as well as productivity focus, and to me that's always a positive. But yeah, that's kind of it for this quick little video, just talking about things that I'm looking at and that are catching my eye. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments about this or anything that interests you about the tech coming out this year. Thank you and have a good one.